Okay, so let's jump right in. What if I told you there's this one activity that can make you more imaginative, boost your memory, and actually deepen your relationships with people? And get this, it's completely free and you already know exactly how to do it. We are talking, of course, about reading fiction. And I mean that literally. We're not just talking about changing your mind in a figurative sense. We're talking about physically changing the actual architecture of your brain. It sounds a little bit like science fiction, I know, but today we're going to dig into the science fact behind how getting lost in a story is maybe the best workout you can give your brain.
For a long, long time, fiction has kind of gotten a bad rap, you know? It's seen as a nice little distraction, or if you're a bit more cynical, a complete waste of time. It actually reminds me of this story I heard about a father who literally snatched a novel out of his daughter's hands, telling her, go read something useful. It's a feeling a lot of us have been taught, that stories are just entertainment.
But is that actually true? What if that advice is just plain wrong? Well, today we're going to challenge that whole idea head on, and we're going to do it with some pretty surprising evidence from brain science that shows reading fiction isn't just useful, it's one of the most powerful things you can possibly do for your mind. All right, so where's the proof? Let's start with this really clever experiment that gets right to the heart of it all: how stories affect our ability to connect with other people, to really truly understand them. So back in 2013, a couple of New York psychologists, David Kidd and Emanuele Castano, came up with this simple but honestly brilliant study. They had different groups of people read different things. Some got these really character-driven literary passages, others read some fast-paced thrillers, and a third group just read nonfiction. Afterwards, they all took the same test. They were shown pictures of faces and had to guess what emotion that person was feeling. Now, what this test was really getting at is something psychologists call theory of mind. I know, it's a fancy term, but all it really means is our ability to understand that other people have their own thoughts, their own feelings, their own unique world going on inside their heads. It's basically the foundation for empathy, the ability to step into someone else's shoes. And the results? They were absolutely striking. The people who read the literary fiction, the stories that really force you to get inside a character's complex mind, they scored way higher on the empathy test. They were just better at reading people. And the nonfiction readers, they scored the lowest. This tells us something huge. The type of story you read really matters. And look, this isn't just some abstract number from a lab. This has a profound real-world impact. Think about this reading group for people dealing with depression. They all read Wuthering Heights together, and by talking about those incredibly complex, difficult characters, they weren't just analyzing a book. They were practicing empathy. They were exploring these huge emotions from a safe distance. For some of them, it was literally a lifeline. So we know it works, but how does it work? Like, what is actually going on inside our brains when we're completely lost in a good book? To figure that out, let's put on our neurologist hats for a second and take a look at the wiring itself. Here's what's so wild. There's a huge difference between how our brains handle speaking versus reading. Speaking is ancient. We're talking over 100,000 years old. Our brains come pre-wired for it. A kid just has to be around language to pick it up. But reading? Reading is a brand new invention, only about 5,000 years old. There is no reading center in the brain. We literally have to build it ourselves. And that right there, that's the secret sauce. Because reading isn't a pre-installed program, our brain has to work harder. It has to create all these new pathways, connecting the parts for vision, for language, for memory, for emotion, all into this incredibly complex network. It's a full-on whole brain workout. It's not taking a familiar road, it's like you're creating a new one every single time. And this leads us to the most incredible part of this entire story. When your brain is doing all that hard work, it doesn't just process the story like it's data on a screen. No, it simulates it. It lives it. Okay, check this out. Brain scans show something that is just unbelievable. When you read about a character running for their life, the motor cortex in your brain, the part that controls movement, it lights up. It's the same region that would fire if you were actually running. When you read about a character in pain, your somatosensory cortex activates. Your brain just doesn't really see a big difference between reading about something and actually experiencing it. So let this sink in. Reading fiction is basically like a life simulator. You are firing the exact same neural circuits for empathy, for action, for making tough choices, all from the safety of your chair. You're not just passively learning, you are actively building the neural architecture of experience itself. But the big question is, does this feeling last? Does it leave a mark? A groundbreaking study at Emory University decided to find out. They had students read 30 pages of the novel Pompeii every night for 5 nights in a row, and they scanned their brains with an fMRI every single morning. And the result was absolutely staggering. The simple act of reading a compelling story over a few days physically changed their brains. The connections between their neurons actually grew thicker and denser. This wasn't just a momentary flicker of activity. This was a physical upgrade to the hardware. And these new, stronger connections weren't just in the language parts of the brain. They were everywhere, especially in the areas for physical sensation and, you guessed it, theory of mind, our empathy circuit. This physical strengthening is what boosts memory and sparks imagination. In a very real way, the brain scans showed that the story had become a part of them, woven into their neural fabric. So what does this all mean for us in our daily lives? I mean, this is more than just a cool piece of neuroscience, right? This is a practical tool. A tool for building better minds and maybe even a better world. So here's the bottom line. Just like we go to the gym to build our muscles, we can pick up a novel to strengthen our neural networks. Reading character-driven stories is, without a doubt, one of the best cognitive workouts you can get. On a personal level, this workout is going to sharpen your memory. It's going to fuel your imagination. But the impact is so much bigger than that. Think about it. For a manager trying to build a better team, this is how you foster empathy and trust. And in a world that feels more and more divided, a society that collectively exercises its empathy muscle is a more understanding, more connected society. So the science is crystal clear. Your brain is ready. It's waiting for its workout. Every single story is a new chance to rewire yourself for the better, to practice being human. So the only real question left is, what story will you choose?